case of food poisoning and she couldn't make it. And so for those of you who are questioning, I did not sign up for this guy. Unfortunately, you are just stuck with me. I'll try to do justice with the topic. But as Rohit and Shanti have mentioned earlier, we want this to be a very intimate, engaging session rather than a monologue. We'd like it to be a dialogue, everyone contributing, learning from each other. We, of course, will set the context in terms of the topic, how we look at the social first way of marketing. But of course, ours may not be the best way, and so we'd be open to also engaging and learning from the audience. So with that, right, so when we thought about social first marketing and how every brand wants to do that, and a lot of brands are already spending heavily in social. When we were asked to speak about this topic and discuss it in this session, I thought, how about we go back to the first principles of marketing? Like, why are we doing social? What is it that we want to achieve out of social first marketing? And then when we thought about the first principles of marketing, what is the real definition is, the action of understanding what people need, meeting those needs, building trust, and then translating that trust into a decision that results into sale, right? Historically, the most effective way of doing that was word of mouth. Even today, when we look at some of the consumer research from Nielsen, McKinsey, and the likes of BCG, we see that even today, 88% of consumers trust recommendations from people they know. About 50% of purchase decisions are driven by word of mouth. And anywhere between 2 to 10 times, word of mouth kind of marketing is more effective than the typical broadcast marketing, which is one-to-many kind of message delivery. However, go to the next slide. The most, the most limiting factor for word of mouth historically has been that it was always very unstructured, right? A lot of times those recommendations may be accidental, they're hard to scale, the brands don't really have any control on what's being said. But what has really changed now is with the social platforms coming into play and also the creators who operate on those platforms, this word of mouth effectively has become a lot more structured. It has been industrialized, so to speak, where the social media and creators turned word of mouth into an infrastructure. A voice now reaches millions of people who choose to trust it. Now, it's very important to, I want to underline the word choose, is because every like and follow that consumers do on social media is an intent signal that they are choosing to trust a particular creator or a page. They want to be involved within that conversation. And when brands appear within that ecosystem, there's already a flow of trust within which brands can integrate themselves. So social has really allowed us to take word of mouth to scale in a very repeatable and measurable way that brands can now tap into. The other sort of advantage that social has offered now is that historically, be it your broadcast media or even on digital, it used to be a one-to-many conversation, a message that brand is targeting at users, rather than what now social has offered is to make that message more like a conversation, which now becomes a many-to-many conversation, a many-to-many message. There are, each node in this this image is really a person who is engaging with the message, which is also leading to some network effect in terms of reach, but it's in a context where there is trust flowing. It is part of a culture or a community in a space where people have chosen to be present, right? Moving on. Another way to look at this is that we are not just targeting people, we are sort of trying to move human beings, right? Now, every human being has both left and right brains. There is the rational element where, the reasons of price, features, and proof that usually we tell ourselves are the reasons why we are buying, versus the emotional reasons, the sense of belonging, identity, and trust, which are actually really the reasons why people are choosing to purchase something. Social now works because it speaks to both at once. Imagine a review which comes out as a story. So a review addresses the functional benefits, the price benefits, but also it is said in a manner that it comes out as a personal story, which is also sort of appealing to the emotional side of the user. Same goes for product demos, right? And therefore, what we have arrived at today is a connected playbook, and now we will sort of try to decipher this as we move on, is that there are a few elements to doing this right. Number one is, how do we decode, which is reading the culture in real time, finding the right communities and the voices within those communities, which are trustworthy, which people find relevance with. Once we identify those, how do we sort of build desire at scale for our brands within those communities? And then finally, how do we use technology and platforms to convert that desire into a scalable commerce? Today, we have all of that available, and a lot of brands are using that to their advantage. Now, we'll go into each one of this in some detail. So when we talk about decoding the culture, right, what we really need is some signals that could help us understand the culture. It needs to be always on, listening to the trends, the sentiments inside specific communities, passion points as they emerge, today, not a week from now. And then also an always on sort of method that identifies the right fit of those communities and culture with our brands. Once we identify those, then, when we have identified the playground, is when you'll have to think about how to build desirability for your brands within those identified playgrounds. You would need to identify a method that allows you to create content at scale. It needs to be very timely and relevant to the communities, but also true to your brand. And finally, when you talk about the right voices within the community, you have to have a system in place that allows you to find the right influencers, so to speak, right? Who are the voices which are trustworthy within those communities. And for each one of these, within WPP, we have a system in place. So there are social listening tools that allows us to capture the right trends in the culture. With WPP Open, which is our AI-powered in-house platform that allows us to create those content at scale. And finally, the GOAT agency, as all of you know, really empower us to select the very influential content creators within those communities who can deliver the message and drive desirability. Moving on. While we go about doing this, I think what we also need to understand is the nature of the communities, right? It's when we talk about audience targeting in the previous era, it has sort of evolved into targeting communities. People gather around their interest, their passion points, be it the likes of fashion, beauty, your home cooking, running, fitness, and so on. How do we find those right communities where we find the right fit for our brands? If you look at some of the social platforms, in Facebook today we have more than 10 million plus groups within which there are about 1.8 billion people who engage on a monthly basis. Within Reddit, we have about 130,000 subreddit communities, very focused on an interest, a passion point, that they want to learn more about. Within TikTok, we have micro niches communities, right? Imagine these hashtags. There are about 16 million plus such hashtags. And what we have noticed is that the engagement rates within these contents of micro niches hashtags is about 43% higher compared to the regular content on TikTok, which is a signal to tell us that people are really, involved when the content resonates with their interest and passion. Likewise, on YouTube, we have more than 113 million channels across every passion points. And the followers of those channels are really giving us an intent signal that they are interested in those, contents, but also, it really resonates with their interest and passion. Moving on. When you talk about identify the community, but within that, we also have to identify the right influencers, and then we have to generate content at scale. What I mean by that is, today, if you look at some of the social first brands are doing anywhere between 20 to 30,000 content pieces a month. And when they do that, obviously what happens is that the quality deteriorates. Now, could there be a way where we are able to scale content, produce them in a timely manner, but also control quality? It turns out there is. So within WPP Open, what we have done here, what you're seeing on the screen is a real KOL. Her name is Oktari Devina. And the content that you see here are all 100% AI generated. Go back to the previous one. And the previous one. These are all AI, 100% AI generated content posted on their account, bringing out the stories of her passion in roller skating, cycling, but also embedding the brands beautifully within those stories. What I'm going to also show you on the next slide is when all of these principles sort of come to life in real world, trying to, deliver brand growth, right? Because that's why we all exist in this industry. How does that look like, right? On the next slide, what you'll see is a toothpaste brand who was able to integrate itself beautifully in the community and culture of fashion, perhaps for the very first time ever that a toothpaste brand is doing it. Now let's see how we did it and what were some of the outcomes. Can you go to the next slide?
In Fashion Week history, there's only been one rule: no smiling. In 2025, one brand rewrote it. Not any of these, but Pepsodent. On the biggest stage in all of Southeast Asia, a toothpaste did this. We made a smile the ultimate weapon that completes the look. For the first time, models, A-list stars, fashion and beauty's biggest creators, they all had ultra white worked into their routines. The labels took inspiration from it. Harvard's Bazaar made a cover story of it. Even an ex-top model judge certified it. With a statement that walked the talk, ultra white smiles lit up the room, won everyone over, even sold out right away on TikTok Shop. Launch a product? Nah, we changed the rules of the game. And we brought the smiles back on the runway.
Who would have thought, right? Had it not been for the social first way of marketing, it would never have been possible for a toothpaste brand to integrate itself so beautifully with fashion. There would be questions in the room, did it really move the needle on business? Of course, it did really well on media metrics and driving some of the brand equity metrics. But also at the same time, it surpassed its sales target. In fact, almost sold out. We were struggling on the production. The demand was so high. There was also a target to be the #1 brand in Haba, which is our health and beauty stores and super premium whitening. We achieved that all within a span of 3 months. So this really works, both in terms of the brand and media metrics, but also on the sales metric. Now with that, so this is what we say when we talk about decode, is really decoding the culture in real time, finding the right communities and the voices. Once you do that, the next job is to build desire. And for that, I'll ask Benjie to walk us through how Unilever is building desire through the 5V framework.
Thank you, Rajan. I think a big hand for Rajan for being a very fast, last-minute presenter and doing it very well. All right, cool. I will look at my phone because I can't look at the back of my slide. But as I was preparing the discussion for today, a few things kind of, as you get older, I think you reflect a bit more and you get some reflections. No, I think when I reflect back on my first years in marketing, you imagine how simple life was back then, no? You would spend many months on a marketing brief. You'd wait for an agency to pitch. You take a few months to choose a proper 30-second campaign and a 15-second campaign. Maybe you do 2 of those in a year and you're done for the year. Right? That was life back then 20 years ago. Life has been quite different nowadays. I think I don't know how much in the audience are in different situations. I'm assuming that all of us are in different stages in our own evolution of understanding. No? And also it varies by category, the relevance of what we mean by social first. I must qualify to say that TV continues to play an important role, especially in some categories that are highly penetrated. And so I think that's an important qualifier to make, lest we give the impression that everything is social first and digital. I think that's an important one. But I think also for those that are less penetrated and more upcoming categories, social first is something that we all feel is happening, we all know is happening, but maybe some of us struggle to understand, how do I really properly spend for this? TV used to be quite predictable in the old days. You have a certain spend, you look at your share of spend over share of market, you look at your reach and frequency, you can preview and post-view, and then you have a simple interpretation whether it's working or not. Now, social first suddenly adds a million other iterations to how that can be done, and we wonder how that spending can be done, how that content generation can be done, and how that measurement can be done. Now, I think what also does not change is that ultimately, in the objective of marketing, the objective remains the same. You want to drive sales, and you want to drive brand love or brand equity. Those two things don't change whether it's in the era of TV 20, 30 years ago or the era of today of social first. So those objectives don't change. The channel and the medium may change. Now, when I go to social first as the topic now, like I said, in the old days when there was just TV, you make 2 materials and you're done. You shove it to everyone's TV, whether they're interested or they're not, they have no choice but to see it anyway. Now, for certain audiences, again, not all, but if you're like my children, my teenage children nowadays, who don't watch TV, who are quite, who are quite choosy about what social media they go through, what community they go through, it is important to be where culture is. Is that my next slide? Next slide, please. Next one. This one, yes. So, it's very important to be where culture is in today's world. Whether you're one of those subreddit followers, do you follow wrestling? Do you follow gaming? Are you an NBA fan? Are you a World Cup fan? Are you into makeup? Are you into cooking? Are you into tech? It's important to be in culture. I think that's a key. Before with TV, you can shove it to everyone's living rooms, and they have no choice but to listen. And maybe 10% of it, it matters to them, 20% matters to them. But here, because it's not one to many anymore, it's many to many, you have no choice but to be in culture. And therefore, I think one important task of a marketeer is to understand within your brand persona, what are in-culture moments that you can be a part of your consumers' lives. So that is now a new task that is needed in today's world of social first. Now, if I think about the evolution, when I say TV to social first, there was the middle part where it's more push digital. The YouTubes, the Facebooks were all push digital, but now it's social first, it's all pull. You have no choice but to be in part of culture. So within that, I just look at my, yes. So what used to be just reach and frequency before, now you have to be part of culture so that your brand desirability comes with the right context. So I think that's an important starting point that I'd like to share. Otherwise, you might as well just go TV and shove it down everyone's throat. Now, that's on where you need to be. Now, if I go to the next one of what the brand needs to be, if you go to the SASSY slide, Jappy, please, thank you, yes. So Unilever believes in an acronym that we call SASSY. So I started off with where you need to be, being in culture. Now, this is who you want to be. And what we believe in, this is a framework for Unilever. It may or may not work for others, but something that we believe in, being SASSY. First of all, we want to have superior science. Ultimately, we want to give you something that really changes and gives you benefit, whether it's for your nutrition, whether it's for your skin tone, whether it's for cleaning your clothes. It should be backed by superior science. And by the way, in the world of TikTok today, consumers are educated every day. Suddenly, science, ingredients is now democratized. Back in the old days, again, when I needed to understand science, I would talk to my R&D people and I'd have a briefing for a whole week. Now I just go to TikTok and understand what the niacinamide does, what hyaluronic acid does, what the salicylic acid does, and I get educated after an hour. No? Science needs to be real, and consumers are now educated. It's now democratized. The next one is aesthetics. Again, in the old days, a product win means a blind product win. You give someone a blind bottle of shampoo or a blind sachet of powder, and you have them test it against competition, you see which one wins. That was sufficient and honest with regards to whether you're winning in product or not. Today, that's no longer sufficient on its own. It has to have the right aesthetics that go along with it. No? Is the artwork good? Is it metallic? Is it shiny? Does it look good on the shelf? Do I feel proud to have people see me using this? So the aesthetics become important as well. Then there's the sensorial. And maybe a small story on sensorial. No? Vaseline lotion has been one of our oldest brands in Unilever, 150 brands. One of the most old-fashioned brands as well, if I could say. But then we kind of realized, because this was invented in the developed world, in Asia, because it's so humid, people don't like the sticky lotion. But no one really articulated this because they expect lotion to just be sticky. And then we took inspiration from face serums, where lightweight face products are now, the in thing. And so we said, can we get a sensorial from a face serum and put that in a lotion? And Gluta-Hya Vaseline was invented. Gluta-Hya became #1 in every country that we launched Gluta-Hya, because there was no sensorial like any other in the country. And again, it's an example of not just the delivery of the science, but how the sensorials can really make you win. Shared by others, we have now started innovating. It used to be the other way around. You innovate, you put content for people to talk about it. Now we've had a reverse process where we see what can be content that people want to talk about, and we make an innovation out of it. No? So we had either FIFA limited editions, we have had Dove limited editions with Bridgerton and other partners. Now, content that's shareable leads to innovation, which is the reverse of innovations and you make content. And this is also an important factor that we believe will be a winning factor for brands. And lastly, really feeling young and looking young. Again, Vaseline Gluta-Hya as an example, one of our oldest brands. But Vaseline as a brand. But Gluta-Hya suddenly made Vaseline young again. If an old brand like a Vaseline of 150-year-old can be made young because of an innovation, because of the right social media plan and the right sensorial, then it can be done for any other brand. That's our belief within Unilever. But I think in my first two slides a while ago be about being in culture. And secondly, for the brand, and this is I think an assignment for all the marketers in the room, we have to be clear what the brand stands for. No? SASSY is a guidance, but we have to be clear what the brand stands for. Because you don't want to just come out in TikTok the way any other brand comes out. You don't want to come out in YouTube the way any other brand comes out. So whereas before there's a brand personality, a brand persona that you want to look like on TV, it is the same of how like on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, and any other community that you're a part of. So I think this is the second part of the guidance, being in culture in the first one, and how the brand persona should come out, and how they need to be sassy within Unilever. Now the next slide. Now, so the next question is, how do you measure if it's really, how do you drive this first, and how do you measure if it's really working for you? And here we've also started looking at what we call the 4V framework. So I think, again, TV was much simpler before. What's your reach, what's your frequency? But here we have a 4V framework to measure whether the input KPIs are working. So again, these are inputs. The outputs always would be the impact to brand equity, the attributes that you want to go for, TBCA and sales. These are the inputs. So quickly going through them. First, volume. How much content are you generating? There are brands that are generating 1 million content a year. 1 million content a year. Some 5 million content a year. So it will vary by category. Beauty, tech, fashion tend to have more. Foods maybe next year. Home care maybe last year if you do relativity. But volume of content is important. It's not like TV where you can have one and just drive it because that's not talkable. So volume is the first V. The second is velocity. How fast are you in culture and going on with the trend? No? And some trends on TikTok are popular for 3 days, some for a week. And if you're really in culture and you have really social listening that is of the right levels, you will be very fast in velocity. Next is validity. Is what you're putting in, end of the day, delivering what you want the brand to stand for? Just being cute and talkable is not enough. It has to have the right validity to drive what you want the brand to stand for. When Pepsodent example shown a while ago, talk about smiling, or talk about the Vaseline example a while ago, talk about how to drive hydration. Ultimately, you have to be sexy and creative, but it has to be valid. It has to deliver what the brand objectives are. Now, this is the tough part about marketing. Now, the fourth is virality. How much will people want to really share your campaign? And again, a very tough one, right? TV before or the push ads before, you just listen to it and really just accept it. Here, we measure how much of your content is shared, liked, engaged. And again, this is the tough part of marketing. So the virality is important as well. And lastly, the variety. No? It complements a bit the part about volume a while ago in the first V. But you need to have different varieties for it to really be fresh. No? And I just had a meeting this morning before I came here of our Jenny Blackpink campaign that we're driving with Vaseline as well. And we're going through the different variety of partnership, communities, channels that we will drive. How it would look like on June, in July, in August, in September. What kind of communities we would like to engage in. And how we would measure how much content, how much validity it will drive. And therefore, what it gives back to the brand and validity. So these are things is, I think, a perspective of framework. I don't want to be preachy to say that this is the framework. I hope you can take this as one option that you can look at amongst the many options that you might hear. But this is one framework that Unilever follows to see whether we have the right input metrics to see if things are working. Ultimately, the output metrics does not change over the decades. Is my brand growing? Is my brand power or brand love increasing? These two things does not change. And on to the last slide. No, and I think, one thing that's guaranteed is that Unilever or any other company cannot win alone. For us to drive the scale that we need to work with partners who are able to drive this with really the right scale for us at the right quality and the right efficiency. And here I must say that it requires a lot of trust and partnership because some are experimental and pilots, some are already validated and we roll out big, quick and fast. And this requires the best of us. Why? Things change so fast. Every week, every month, something new comes out. Whether it's, AI-generated content is just already from 3-4 months ago that we talked about how to do this in an automated agentic way. So the next thing we're trying to crack. This thing can never be done by one company alone, no matter how big they are. It requires the best of the best. And we are fortunate in Unilever that we have the best of the best partners that help us try to drive this with scale. Yeah. So now I think to give you an idea of, if you have brands with desire, how to drive this with scale that ultimately converts into really commerce, the actual money that you get out of it, and the right brand love that we get out of it. So I think, Vero, that's your cue.
Thank you, Benjie. Let's give a round of applause to Benjie. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to sit down. Yes, it is, and it's Friday. Who wants to work on a Friday? Anyway, thank you everyone for having us here, and for WPP and Unilever for sharing, their philosophy in terms of social first. Our job here is to share how do we go from content to commerce? Because at the end of the day, what do we all care about in this room? It's dollars, right? It's money. We all want to make sales. And we're going to talk through how do we go from content to intent and then to commerce. Now, if we go to the next slide. Benjie talked about, yes, this one, the 5 V's. Volume, variety, velocity, validity, and virality, which is, I think, a great framework to measure really how do we do social marketing in a way that's measurable, right? And we wanted to offer some ways to kind of approach this framework from a YouTube perspective, and we'll take it one by one. We'll start with volume first. I think I'll stand actually because this is making my neck strain. Now, Benjie talked about how there are brands who are creating 1 million content each year. I don't know about you, it feels exhausting. I miss the old days of TVCs, 15-seconders, concept testing, and then we're done. But 1 million is a lot. And my point is not to say that you don't need a lot of volume. My point is to say that you want to make sure that the video that you create are getting the right level of attention, right? Because volume means nothing if people are not seeing, if people are not noticing the content of your videos itself. Now, at YouTube, this is where I think we feel like we capture deep attention across every single screen. It's not just the mobile phone, which is always in our hands all the time, but it's also in the living room. We are seeing incredible growth in unconnected TVs, right? And when you're watching a TV in your living room, it's usually more than one person that's watching it as well. And they're there because they feel positive and they're engaged, and they really have an intent to watch all of this content. We go to the next slide. And when we talk about variety, right, this is also about all of the different formats and screens. I talked about CTV. Let's not forget that, we all are sometimes very tired of just scrolling and doom scrolling, right? How many of us have actually chosen to listen to a long podcast because you actually learned something meaningful and valuable, right? Whether it's an interest in running or AI or whatever that may be, podcasts and long-form storytelling, long-form films is something that we all actually still love to engage with if it's something that we're interested in and we love. There's creators, there's behind the scenes, there's shorts, and most importantly, a lot of this attention and intent is also translating to, is also informing how they purchase, right? 87% of Indonesia viewers actually say that YouTube helps them to decide what to purchase. So you look at Lifebuoy here, this is, Lifebuoy is a brand that's actually really used the variety of formats and screens really well. So not just stopping at shorts and, creator shorts, but also having podcasts with doctors, using the connected TV, the large screen for long form storytelling, and so on and so forth. Go to the next slide. Now, I talked a little bit about attention, and I think this is a really important one because sometimes when we have to think about not just how many views your video gets, but how many quality views does your video get. And this is just a comparison of how fast a video is counted as a view across the different platforms. And as you can see with YouTube Shorts and YouTube InStream, you actually see a lot more of the video before it gets counted as a view. And this is really important because it is this quality view that translates into intent to purchase itself. We talked about validity. Now, validity, I think Benjie talked about brand, right? How do you make sure that the content that is out there is aligned with your brand equity? I think what's also important is what are the voices that are talking about your brand? Are they trusted voices? The 130 million plus communities that Rajan spoke about, these are all trusted communities. These are creators that fans and users really trust when they share, whether it's a new gadget to buy, or a new skincare to purchase, or a new makeup to purchase, or running shoes. I actually just bought a Asics Super Blast for my half marathon training because of a video I watched on YouTube, because these are trusted people to speak about certain topics that you care about, right? So if you look at YouTube creators, this is where it's important. They're turning high intent, high interest, high attention to high intent, and that's what matters when it comes to purchase decisions as well. Next slide. So, virality is an interesting one. I think sometimes when we talk about culture, a lot of people assume that it only happens on short form videos. Who here believes that culture only happens or is created in short form videos? Yeah? Would you agree or disagree that sometimes it can also travel both ways? Right? Do you remember that there was this recent case about korupsi gereja? Korupsi Bank BNI for dana gereja, and there was a suster that talked about it. She was actually invited to a podcast by, gua lupa lagi siapa, Denny Sumargo, right? And in that podcast, she was able to tell the full story of what happened and get the full picture. And what happened was actually a lot of the short form creators took snippets of that podcast and then threw it into their own kind of channels, right? And actually that's what moved the needle and that made the change and everything. So culture goes both ways, right? Sometimes they emerge in shorts and creators. This is an example of Tabola Ballet. Do you guys know Tabola Ballet? I can give a corksicle for anyone who's able to sing Tabola Ballet or dance. So they surface cultural moments and they might, appear in many different platforms. There's a lot of deepening of these stories on YouTube, whether it becomes a podcast or a collaboration, or they take a song and they make a dance out of it, and so on and so forth. And what's interesting is then, if people then go to search, that's when you know that interest spikes. So actually Google search is a really great source for you to understand what's happening and what's trending. and it does get reflected there. And then it goes back to the community itself. If you go to the next slide, this is an example of when content and culture actually became money. How many of you are familiar with Aldi Taher's burgers? How many of you bought Aldi Taher's burgers? No? Not the target market, maybe. But yeah, Aldi Taher had a lot of trending conversations on social media. He's had a lot of very memeable content. Yes, we were gonna put your photo there as well. Benjie has a photo with Aldi Taher in the Unilever office. But it was really on YouTube where the conversation unpacked, where he had an interview with Raditya Dika, right? And we had 17 million views in 3 weeks. And the one thing I want to remind everyone, when we think about virality, often we think things that go spike up in a few days is it, right? But actually, there's also this importance of long-lasting. How long does the culture, does the trend last? And this is what you see on YouTube, actually. A lot of the content, and you can go back into your YouTube channels and check this out as well. When you have great content, it may have a slower kind of start, but you will see it sustain far longer. We have videos from like 2016 probably that are still raking in views, right? Because they're still very relevant and people are still paying attention and it's still part of the culture very much. So conversations, when we think about virality, it's not just about this one blip and then it's gone, but also how long does it sustain? Because as long as it sustains, it will also bring intent and it will also bring sales to all of us. Next slide. Now, this is an example of the Lifebuoy Katempelan Dingin Award, a campaign, which actually won a YouTube Works Awards last year, which I think was it was one of my favorite campaigns because it was so culturally relevant. If you haven't seen the ad, you should go and find it on YouTube. But it really set out to win the hearts of Gen Z with a very local insight. And it didn't stop at just the video, long-form video, right? You guys worked with creators as well to create that conversation on YouTube. And you can see the results for itself. Really high, 66% view-through rate. More importantly, consideration lifts, 6.4%. And a 40 BPS market share increase nationwide. So brands can create content that actually really travels and also lifts share as well. Now, when we speak about validity, I think Benjie mentioned earlier that we're living in an age where access to information is at the tip of your fingers, right? You hear about this technology like carbon plates on shoes. I have no idea what that is. That sounds interesting. Runhood talked about it in their video. You can automatically go to Google search and ask, what is carbon plate technology? Which shoes have carbon plate? What are the disadvantages and advantages? Sometimes we think that when an intent is created through social media, it kind of happens there immediately, when the reality is that 81% of people who discover something on social media actually go to Google search to learn more about it, right? Because there is a lot of the science that really matters for people to make those decisions, to compare whether this product or that product is better, the review, to hear about to look at the reviews as well, to compare prices. And so it's really important to don't forget that actually social discovery also goes into Google search as well. And 67% of consumers who actually discover the brands on social media, after they went to Google search to research a little bit more, they actually decided to purchase a different brand. So you want to make sure that your presence within that Google search, what they find about the brand, about the product on Google search, also helps them to finally make that purchase decision for the brand itself. Now, we can't do a Google presentation without talking about AI, can we? So this is a video about how Gemini and our AI technology is powering creator content, and how is that becoming an advantage for brands in terms of understanding user intent and how you can then use that. So this is really, really new. It came out from our Google Marketing Live, which happened just a few weeks ago, where we talk about the newest ads products. So I'd like to play this video for all of us to kind of check out.
Under the hood, YouTube now has a super powerful layer of intelligence that not only helps people watch what they love, but also helps advertisers show up with the exact right message at the exact right time. This is a video I made about hiking through the Swiss Alps looking for hidden bunkers. Many AI models will look at this video and simply slap on a text-based label like hiking or outdoor gear or Switzerland. This misses out on why people are watching this video at all, their intent. Enter Gemini, the AI models that can register all of the context nuances of this film. The wet rocky terrain, the wind hitting the mic, all the text on the screen. If all of these individual signals are like individual instruments, then Gemini is like the conductor, turning billions of context signals into something that you can listen to and make sense of, something that will help you uncover viewer intent. This is a total game changer for how advertising works on YouTube. But to understand just how powerful it is, I want to pass it over to the person who's actually building this tech. Over to you, Vidya.
The real magic happens when our intelligence layer connects that multimodal understanding of the video with the rest of the Google ecosystem. So it can tell that this viewer isn't just planning a hike, but a multi-day outdoor adventure. Ultimately, this helps brands find and convert new customers, sometimes before they even type a product into a search bar. But uncovering intent is only half the battle. You still need the creative to match it. This is where multimodal video creation comes in. Multimodal video creation streamlines our AI models into a single workflow that helps marketers ideate, storyboard, and generate video campaigns. So get ready to produce high-performing creative at unprecedented speed and scale.
That is how Gemini orchestrates a win-win for both viewers and brands.
All right, so this video creation I think is available on Google Ads for brands, harusnya ya. So please do check it out. So we can actually create all of this like AI generated ads very easily now on the Google Ads platform itself. Now, question is, I still haven't answered the question, how do I translate this intent into sales, into commerce? Now, enter demand gen. So demand gen is the tool that then translates and extends the 5 V's when you have really good videos into performance and into sales. And you'll be able to directly use a creator video that you've identified or you've created together with the creator itself, and actually use demand gen to then drive either traffic to your to Shopee, for example, or to your other marketplace platforms as well. And advertisers who have used this have seen 14% more conversions when they've added demand gen to their search and performance max campaigns. And they've actually seen, and this is also available on Shorts as well, 86% of online advertisers who report using demand gen are satisfied with the results compared to competitive sets as well. Now, to bring this to life, I'd like to share a case study. Actually, wait, before that, now, just a reminder, it's not new. We've been here for at least 2 years, but YouTube Shopping is also available. And creators can actually tag, and they are actually actively tagging their videos to link to YouTube Shopping, which now links to Shopee as well as Blibli and Lazada. And this for your brand is also an opportunity to drive sales across the commerce media network. We have already enabled commerce media network boosting. So when a creator creates a video and tags, let's say Vaseline, you'll be able to go to Shopee and actually boost that and make sure that the impact of that creator video is actually much higher because you're scaling the reach as well. This is an example from L'Oreal, actually, who have used demand gen together with the commerce media network to drive sales for Maybelline. And sometimes the question that we get is also always like, well, I'm already driving ads on my marketplace. Why do I need to add this demand gen and creator? Well, this is the perfect way of actually combining the creator creator content that has created that intent and translating that into additional traffic that goes into your Shopee or Lazada store, instead of just relying on people who have just come there with already an immediate intent, right? So it captures kind of these more impromptu or like things that were inspired outside of the platform rather than immediately in the marketplace. So this is a great one for Maybelline, where they were able to see 7% more incremental GMV when using demand gen CMN campaign compared to just going directly to when they compare between geographies, to kind of show that there is that incremental impact of driving creator content to the marketplace itself. So I think that's it for me. Just to wrap up today, WPP, Rajan talked about decoding and identifying where trust lives. We know that it lives in communities, it lives in creators, and the culture that matters to our users and target market. Benjie talked about creating desire through being sassy, as well as the 5 Vs. And I shared about the commerce conversion engine on how you can take the high intent content and translate that into commerce and sales through some of the tools that we have there. And to close it off, I have a quick quiz, just 2 questions, and I do have real swag this time. We have corksicles that are ready to be shared. If you know the answer, shoot up your hand as soon as possible, as fast as possible. First question is, according to Kantar research, where does YouTube rank for ad attention when stacked against streaming, social, and linear TV? You're not allowed. I'm gonna go back here. Number one. C, number 1. What is the answer, Adi? Yay, correct. Thank you. You get a corksicle. I feel I have like an Oprah moment right now. Okay, next question. According to a survey conducted by Kantar, what percentage of surveyed Gen Z viewers in Indonesia agree that YouTube has the most trusted creators? I think this gentleman here. What's the answer? B, 91%. Is that correct, Adi? Yes, that is correct. Congratulations. All right, that is it from us. Thank you so much. All right, I think we're going to Q&A. Okay. Are we hosting this ourselves?
They are going to put up the questions on screen, right? Just read from there. Should we take those questions first?
While we wait, are there questions from the audience? Yes.